Do women prefer assholes and bad boys over nice guys? I've been hearing this my whole entire life from both men and women, largely men in the comment section, guys that I've talked to, guys that I've known throughout my life, and they just say, nice guys finish last. There's no point. Women always choose the asshole. Women want to be treated badly. The asshole always wins, things like this. And then from the women, they'll even admit, they'll say, yeah, I love bad boys, or yeah, I'm always attracted and end up with the asshole. They don't like being treated badly, but there's just some sort of draw with this personality or this character frame. I even had a guy friend of mine say a couple of years ago, I used to be a nice romantic guy. I used to show up in a certain way, but women like a challenge. So I gave that up. I don't like being like that anymore. I don't want to be vulnerable like that anymore. So a hurt woman, and this can also go for a man, but this video is about women. A hurt woman will always look for a certain type of experience from a man. So with that one friend, that male friend of mine a couple of years ago, if he stays true to how he is and he gives out healthy love, he still stays romantic, he still stays vulnerable, he's going to attract and call in a woman who's able to give and create and receive healthy love with him. If he changes and he shuts off, becomes avoidant, and doesn't stay true to himself, then he's going to attract hurt people. He's going to attract someone that still is operating from a pain frame. So if you are a hurt woman and you're operating from your pain frame still, maybe you're someone who isn't as self-aware, you haven't really put in a lot of effort to do the work yet, you'll find yourself in a reality that is like a mirror. And this goes for all of us, where what we find reflecting back to us is the areas that we need to heal in order to evolve and grow to the next level. So the more chaotic and toxic your relationships are, the louder the message is screaming at you, hey, like these are the areas that you need to heal. So hurt people will find themselves being hurt. Sadly, we get comfortable and adjust to being in those hurt spaces. So a lot of the time, people want something different deep down, like they know that they do. They just can't bridge the gap from where they are to being able to accept in and call in something different. When your central nervous system is used to stress and anxiety, we tend to just recreate our own stress and anxiety because that's our comfort zone. That's where we're used to being in. So a lot of people will feel very uncomfortable being in calm situations. So it's like someone who's used to sort of neurotic behaviors in relationships, or toxic highs and lows, where the person is always hot or cold, that they never know what's going on. If you're used to that, being with a healthy partner will almost feel like a repellent to you. Like your central nervous system is like, whoa, what is going on? And how you directly relate to relationships is going to feel off for you. Like that healthy person is going to just feel foreign to you and you don't feel comfortable there. You need to be able to rewire yourself, which is what I did personally, to be able to accept in and receive like healthy love from someone. So women don't want assholes. They don't want someone who's going to treat them badly. They don't really want that. They choose that, and there are many reasons why. Looking at our shadow, like our pain, is triggering, and it is hard. The women who are choosing bad boys, and I used to be this woman 20 years ago, are operating from a very specific type of frame. It is a pain frame, and it is operating on programming that they're largely unaware of, that is outdated from childhood and previous relationships. These are just beliefs that someone else put there from childhood or past relationships that are not true and that need to be shed in order to upgrade so that you can experience something different. So before I get into why so many of us are drawn to bad boys and assholes and why Mr. Nice Guy seems like he's always losing, I'm going to do a separate video on bad boy versus Mr. Nice Guy. But the focus today is why does it seem like women like assholes? This is a no shame, no self-pity space. This is a safe space for us to be able to look at ourselves inwardly and understand why we are operating the way that we do. So the inside of us creates the outside. So what we believe on the inside, all of our pain, is created on the outside, so in our external reality. So your inner voice, again, a lot of people are largely unaware of the narratives. There's so many of them. We break them down layer by layer. Whatever that is those beliefs, the old programming, these old belief systems, they will externally sound like, they will come out of the mouths of the men that you choose, and they will sound like this. So it can sound like, I'm not enough. I don't trust men. I don't feel like I'm good enough for a man to stick around for. I need to be able to chase the man to prove that I'm worthy of love. Love feels hard. Love feels like I can never get my needs met. So if that's your narrative, and that was a lot of my narrative, so I attracted men like that in my life. So like I have abandonment issues, so I'd always attract relationships where I felt abandoned. Paradoxically, I was abandoning myself also by choosing relationships where I could not get my needs met and where I was feeling like I was being abandoned. So if that's your narrative, again, that was mine, and then the guy also has his pain, so you're going to attract the same. So this is from Why We Think We Love Bad Boys, How to Heal That Wound. So his narrative is, if I push her away, she comes back, equals I'm worth it. So his is pushing people away and then making them chase after him so that he feels so loved that way. And then a lot of people's narrative with this chase avoid wound is, if he pulls back, I get to run after him to convince him to choose me again, and that equals, oh, I must be worth it. And then when he comes back, it must mean that I'm worth being loved. So you get this like constant push, pull, hot, cold dynamic. So the united narrative is that you both want connection and love, but you fear connection and love because love hurt you when you were young. So you push them away to see if they'll come back. We don't believe we're worth being loved, so we dance on the outside lines of love. It's wound bonding. So you're both inwardly hurt, so you outwardly hurt. And a lot of people are terrified of love and connection. So you're operating on a subconscious belief system that love meant you had to prove just how worth loving you are. And this is such a common wound, and I'm going to get into again why. So I was personally addicted to proving my worth because I had low self-worth and low self-value. Now this next part could be, again, a bit triggering, and it sounds really bad, to be honest, but it's speaking your reality out loud. So if you say to yourself, and this is me, this is my example, if I'd said to myself when I was younger, in these toxic relationships that I stayed in, I like being here in this unstable and violent space with this person who hurts me, and I choose to stay here. That's one thing to take ownership. However, if I had said those words at the time, I would have had to take responsibility and accountability that I was choosing to stay there. I was operating under the delusion that I was trapped, and plus I needed to learn the lesson. It was screaming in my face for years and years and years. So it would have been a hard swallow, but when we're in fight or flight, we aren't tapping into our truth. So if this is you and you tend to chase men, bad boys, assholes, you can say, I stay in the chase because I'm afraid to be seen. Part of us is afraid to be seen because we don't think we're going to be accepted. And that's a hard swallow. I like when guys make me prove my worth by chasing them. I choose to stay in these dynamics because you get what out of it? What are we getting? Like, what are you getting out of it? And I think it's important to mention that, you know, if I'd spoken my life out loud back then, I would have seen that it was all based on lies and false narratives, because my little 8-year-old self developed these beliefs. When my dad abandoned me, my belief system was based on lies. So I attracted trauma. I created pain and inauthentic connections because I was operating from a disempowered mind state based on pain and fear. So could I say out loud, I am not enough? No, that feels gross inside my body. I am not worth a man's time. I deserve to be sworn at. I deserve to be hit. I am someone who deserves abandonment. Absolutely fucking not. But that is what I was operating off of, but I didn't know that. I didn't even know that I believed that back then. I was operating off of beliefs that were not based on truth. We were two people feeding off each other's childhood pain and wounds. So a lot of us are carrying this sort of chase and prove our worth wound. We diminish ourselves in the relationship. We don't feel like we attract what we deserve and desire, or we don't even know what we deserve and desire, and we sort of feel like we're on this like repeat mode, like we're stuck. So there's many reasons why we're attracted to bad boys. They're broken down in this book, and the definitions are interesting. If you look at the Oxford Dictionary definition, it's a man who does not conform to approved standards of behavior, especially in a particular sphere of activity. Dictionary.com. A bad boy is a man who isn't afraid to break the rules. This rugged rebel, staring stoically off into the distance in his aviators atop his Harley, is seen as sexually desirable in popular media, though he'll break your heart if you date him. The Urban Dictionary: stupid male teenagers that have a tendency of breaking the law, but according to fiction stories, bad boys have heart and let a beautiful nerd change their lives for good. They attract every girl on the planet. And then the Urban Dictionary also says, look at the bad boys, they're so hot and dangerous, which turns me on even more. Another one is, they're dicks. The Britannica Dictionary says, a man who says or does things that shock people, especially a young and successful man who does things in a way that is very different from the usual way. So from proper description to street, pick your favorite, but one theme connects them all. Bad boys are supposedly irresistible nonconformists that break rules, maybe get in fights, keep you questioning them, set boundaries easily, can seduce and fuck like no other, and bring you to your sexual edges. I mean, I can see the appeal. It goes on. But that's like the characteristics of a bad boy. I'm going to be getting into this topic a lot over the summer because it is quite extensive and it is something I'm very passionate about, which is why I wrote this book. Amazon recently named this the #1 bestseller in sexual abuse. And again, there are a lot of appealing things about bad boys. They have a lot of characteristics that we're fundamentally drawn to as women, but the #1 is because we've been raised largely, and this is not, I don't like blanket statements, but in this case, it's a large majority of the population was raised by avoidant fathers. After the war, men were taught not to feel their emotions as a form of therapy because they were traumatized from the war. It just became a widespread thing. Men, shut off your feelings. You're a baby if you feel anything at all. Like, just don't feel. But if you don't feel, you have explosive anger. So if you don't process, it has to come out of you. So that's why we started getting this explosive rage out of men. So it's toxic masculinity. Again, these are much larger topics, but I'm just kind of brushing over them. So being raised by largely avoidant fathers. So this can mean your father, maybe he was an angry father. Maybe you didn't even have a father that he left, like mine did. Maybe you had just a shut off father who he was nice and he was there around, but he was just completely shut off. Like, he didn't engage with you. You didn't have that strong masculine role model, which a lot of us didn't. So I grew up, and I know a lot of women grew up with the women babying the men because of their tempers. Oh, you can't tell them that. We have to hide things from your grandfather or your father, and this and that. So I grew up just afraid of men and not trusting them. So there was many, many layers with my particular wound, and I spent a very long time in abusive relationships until I started peeling back the layers and making really hard decisions and starting to actually do the work. So we do tend to, as adult women, and again, everyone is different, but a large majority of the population is chasing after these sort of avoidant men. And it's just, again, the ego goes towards what it's used to. So just because something is familiar doesn't mean that it's good. It doesn't mean that it's right. So we have to be able to rewire our neural pathways to be able to heal those deep layered wounds that are keeping us attracting and experiencing the same things that just aren't healthy for us. So in the coming videos, I'm going to go further into the bad boy, deeper into the characteristics and the draw. There's more reasons why we're drawn to them. First is Mr. Nice Guy. Why does Mr. Nice Guy finish last? I'm going to go into a whole piece surrounding Mr. Nice Guy. And then I'm going to be talking about the tools that you can use to actually start healing. Just to start healing from your wound. This is exactly what I did to heal from this. I started this work about 16, 17 years ago, where I just created my awareness around it at around 30. And then I just continued to do, well, I entered the dark night of the soul. But all the work that I did is in this book. By the end of the book, you have created your own personal roadmap. So I created the book so that throughout, you're prompted to go right in the back, so that by the end, you have your own little story. You have your next chapter, so to speak, and it's a roadmap guiding you onward. So if this is you and you want to get off the ride and stay off, I did develop a program based on the book. The book is available on Amazon and the link is in my bio, but the program, I wanted it to be affordable but impactful and have some of the most powerful tools that you can use in it. So all my programs are designed to have tools to take with you. So you will keep the meditation activation, the rewires, there's a fun quiz, what kind of guide you attract, and it actually puts both of you together and it shows you what kind of relationship you create. That's also in the bio. And you also receive a free How to Self-Love ebook. So that program is $44. The link is in the bio, you can grab it. And this is an at your own pace program, so you can just take your time with it and move through it. I do recommend buying a journal as you're moving through the program. And in the link, it is the Stop Chasing program. If you feel like you're ready, there's an inner child activation meditation that's on my YouTube channel. The link is also in the bio. Until then, take good care out there. I'll see you in the next video. I love you so much.